Hello, everyone, and welcome back to tonight's episode of Apolla's Odyssey. Let me know if you can hear me okay. I had to go live from my home tonight because I found out last minute that my studio is being renovated again. So I'll probably be there here at home, filming from home tonight and Thursday, possibly, if I'm not on set Thursday. So I am finally back in town. I've been kind of traveling all over the place. I've had just about enough time to come back maybe once or twice during my travels the last month or so. And it hasn't really been vacation. It's mostly a lot of work. Some play, a lot of work. So yeah, it's been pretty wild. But I'm actually getting back into acting. I decided, I'm going to buckle down and focus for a while. So I'm going to be doing a lot with acting coming up here. But besides, I'm still going to be doing my show. Obviously, I don't think I'll ever miss a Tuesday show. I try to keep my shows Tuesdays and Thursdays, but with acting, I will kind of need to, some days I might get booked last minute for a show. So, if I ever have interviews scheduled, I guess I'll just have to kind of go with it, Matt Linger says, looking good, some sunburn too. Yeah, I spent a lot of time in some undisclosed locations by oceans these last few weeks. So I am actually very, very burnt. I am very burnt. I'm not as burnt as I was, but, it is funny. Like, people have been telling me. So when I was at the United We Stand Fest last week, it was kind of funny because there were some people there. They were talking to me about the ancestry of redheads, and we actually got into the conversation because I got burnt very bad when I was speaking there. And by the way, if you haven't checked out me speaking at the United We Stand Fest, I did post a video of my presentation. It is the Solutions for Humanity video. I aired it last Tuesday while I was on a plane ride. So sorry I wasn't able to go live last Tuesday, but I did air my presentation. So make sure you go check that out. It went pretty well. I really enjoyed it. So, so everyone there, I had some Native American friends there who also, by the way, if you haven't checked out the interview with the Native Americans and some other amazing speakers at the United We Stand Fest, that is like the second to last video I posted, I believe. It's the live from United We Stand Fest video. So make sure you check that one out too. That was an incredible interview. Like, once you hear my Native American friends speaking on that, it was really, really incredible. So I definitely recommend checking that out. But yeah, it was really funny because they were actually telling me, they're like, so do you know about your ancestry? And I was like, well, I mean, I think I'm Irish, German, and Native American, but, my ancestry test kind of says different things, and I'm not sure if I believe in it. But they were telling me, they're like, oh, no, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the whole redhead thing, because we were kind of having a conversation about me being burnt, and I told them, I was like, well, gingers create our own vitamin D, so I can't just, like they were saying, like, usually if you go out in the sun and, like, get burnt, then if you go back out again, you don't. And I'm like, no, that's not true. That doesn't work with me. I just get burnt over and over. And, gingers, we actually create our own vitamin D. It's like a scientific thing. You can look it up. There's some other weird stuff too, but we actually create our own vitamin D, which is really strange. And so they were telling me, they're like, well, it's interesting because they're like, you never heard about the ginger redhead ancestry. And I'm like, well, I'm not sure what you mean by that. And they're like, okay, well, redheads are from inner earth. You know that, right? And I was like, what? Like, no, I don't know about that. And they're like, well, redheads actually originated from inner earth. And I've heard a little about the Tuatha De Danann. You can look that up. It says online in many places that that's where the redheads originated from. But they're apparently like this kind of group of people that were very advanced technologically, but in a way where the people at the time felt that they were like magic, or these magic energy people, which they might have been, but they were like doing some sort of like energy technology, which people saw as magic. So it was very interesting. And so they were telling me about this, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. Like, why redheads would be producing their own vitamin D. Like, if you actually, like, lived above the Earth's surface, it wouldn't make sense that you would have to produce your own vitamin D. So, really strange. I found that very interesting. But sorry, that's just a little side note there. Today, I want to get into the Billionaire Space Race because there's a lot coming out with that. And obviously, I prefer to stick with the ufology disclosure stuff. But, this is important and it's happening right now. And I think there's a lot more behind what's going on than, it just being a space race to become like a commercial space travel. I think there's a lot more going on to this than that, and I've talked about it on previous shows, but I just want to go over the latest articles and, talk about kind of what's going on here. And let me see here. Sorry, just reading the comments. It's good to see everyone. It's been a while. So yeah. Also, before I get into everything, I just want to talk about some of the products I have up on my store, shamanspirits.com. So let me just go ahead and show you the site first before I'm actually at home today, so I can show you my actual products. And by the way, if you're just tuning in, I'm at my home studio right now because my other studio is currently being renovated and probably will for the next week or so. But things should be good after that happens. So here's my site. Please feel free to go ahead and check it out. A lot of amazing new products, and that is shamanspirits.com. I have these amazing initiation key necklaces, which do have multivitamin in them, which are from a crashed alien spaceship, and I actually have a lot of them available right now. They're only $44. A lot of people see this and they think they're $4,444, but that is not the case. They're actually just $44. So if you want to make a donation to me and my show, please go ahead and check out my art. It's pretty awesome. And since I am back home right now, I will be shipping out next day shipping on all orders. Let me show you a little bit of what I have here right now, actually. Because I am at home right now, I can do that. So I've been working on these really incredible orgonite. I hate to say it on here, I'd love to say that they're called daggers, but I can't call them that just because, I don't know, I can't promote anything I sell online because they always think it's weapons, unfortunately. I can't, pay for advertisement, but they're not weapons. Okay, so these are basically like orgonite daggers. But I promise you they're not weapons. They're just shaped like daggers, but they're not sharp. If you see it here, they're just really cool. They're shaped like swords, but they're not sharp. And they're not weapons. And they're orgonite. And I've really been having fun experimenting with orgonite recently. Yes, I did make these myself. And these are up in my shop, shamanspirits.com. So please go check them out. I'm really having a lot of fun with them. And this right here, this is probably my favorite creation yet. Really beautiful. Amazing. And I put these really cool little symbols in them, pressed flowers I've been finding. So make sure you go check those out. Those are up on my site right now. Also, I have a lot of the Shaman Spears minis available. Many of these are available right now on my store, and a lot of them have my own organized spearheads and ends that I made myself. And these are lower priced items than my regular shaman spears. So if you like the regular shaman spears, but they're a little too much for you, definitely go check these out. These are lower priced and still pretty awesome. And then, of course, I have the amazing energy channeling light devices, which if you do not know, I'm sure most of my audience knows this by now, but just for the people out there that may be randomly tuning in, all my shaman spears are made with copper coils, crystals, magnets, and sand I collect from sacred places around the world down the insides. So because bamboo is hollow, so I can actually fill it with all these materials. I have magnets and naturally magnetic hematite sand in them as well, and they're all painted with crop circles that have been found around the world. So make sure you go check these out. And this is probably the nicest one I have online right now. I sold a lot of the ones that were kind of around this size at a conference recently, or a show, Disclosure Fest, but this is the only one of these kind of bigger, sturdy ones I have left. I also have a couple very tall staff size ones. So if you'd like to check those out, if you want one that's like a staff to go hiking with, actually hiking is my favorite thing to do with my shaman spears. A lot of people ask me what do you do with these? Some simple techniques are you can swirl it in a clockwise motion over each chakra and help unblock them and open them up. Obviously if you do any sort of energy work, these are great for amplifying anything energetically. But what I like to tell people is also, if you just want it as a centerpiece for your home, you can put a couple hooks on your wall and hang them like this over your bed or something like that. And I always go hiking with them though, because the way the materials work, the way they work, is kind of like interfacing with your own energy and amplifying your energy. So doing that while hiking in a kind of meditative state, hiking is just really fun. It's also really fun to take photos with them. So I actually have been having a lot of fans send me photos going on hikes with these lately, or going places. I've actually had many fans send me photos lately where they charge them in awesome places, and I love to see that. So if you have bought one of these and you take it to a place and charge it, please send me photos. You can contact me on the contact section of my website, which is apollasteria.com. And if you need to find any of my websites, just go look in the description on here. And I always list all my websites in the description below. Okay. Yeah, if you want to send a photo, Edward Sosa, I'm seeing the comment here. If you would like to send a photo, like I said, just go to apollasteria.com, and I do have a comment section. So you can check it out on there. Or you can hit me up on my my business page on Facebook, Shaman Spears. So it looks like Virgin Galactic beat Blue Origin today. So we're going to get into that. And first I want to kind of cover, what exactly happened with this launch of Virgin Galactic. So obviously, Elon Musk has been saying forever, I'm going to be the first one in space. And I guess, Richard Branson kind of started Virgin Galactic before Elon Musk started SpaceX, I'm pretty sure. And then Blue Origin, most people didn't even know Jeff Bezos had Blue Origin. A lot of people didn't even know about that because he's been so quiet about it. But, they were all kind of in this race to be the first one to outer space. And it's looking obviously, Virgin Galactic actually ended up making out first, Richard Branson, which is pretty cool. I don't know how to feel about any of these guys. I don't know who they are in their personal lives, but business-wise, it's pretty cool what they've all done. And Richard Branson, he created his own island. I mean, that's pretty sweet. And, this all started for him from a record company. I actually saw a show of him on Oprah one time where they just kind of went over everything he had done his whole life. And this was years ago. But he actually started all of this from starting a record company, which he was selling vinyl out of the back of his truck in New York. And then eventually he got a storefront and moved to selling cell phones and airlines, and now he's the first person in outer space. So that's really awesome. And, it's just really, really crazy to see all this coming out right now. So obviously, all these billionaires are racing to get to outer space, but why? Is it just about commercial space travel? Because, obviously the average citizen is looking like they're going to have to pay 400 something million dollars just to get on a seat to go up there to the space station or hotel or have a ride. Obviously there's also these patents, and they've been working on these ships that can go from LA to New York in like 7 minutes. And, that's just like going up over the atmosphere and then coming down. And that's pretty cool. Once the world gets to that kind of, it takes that step in that direction, and that's easier to do. And obviously, a lot of people talk about like how much money this is going to cost, but really, the way technology works, like if you think about computers, the way computers used to be, they used to be like these giant servers in these like buildings that, it took up a whole building, and slowly over time they got smaller and smaller until, now you can just have it right here. So, it's interesting. It's like people, you need to keep that in mind when it's like all this new spacefaring technology is coming out. I mean, this is like the earliest technology. There's going to be a lot more coming out, and obviously like they're going to be able to fine tune things over time. And, hopefully within maybe, the next generation or maybe sooner, things are going to be a lot easier as far as space travel, much cheaper. I know Elon Musk, like his idea, I saw a documentary on him, and he was saying that the main thing that inspired him was he wanted to make space travel affordable and efficient. So that's his main thing, is being able to reuse all the parts that he sends up. So when he sends a rocket up, he wants it to be able to come back and land, and the parts to be able to be reused. So, that's what's really cool about what he's doing. And, I think it's really interesting that all this is coming out right now. To me, a lot of this is probably coming out because, honestly, I feel that one of the main reasons is that people like me and many of my other friends that are in the disclosure conference scene have been in the UFO community in general, have been coming out and promoting full disclosure very intensely over the past few years, especially with the whole Storm Area 51 thing and, everything that went on with that. It's like UFO disclosure has become very prominent, and I do feel that they have anti-gravity technology that hasn't been released to the public. Maybe it's not necessarily our government, but these kind of underground black budget programs, black budget corporations. So, I feel that there's a lot going on with that. And because so many of us have been coming forward, pushing full disclosure, I think it's kind of causing them to be forced to release a little bit of this now. And I think that's a lot of the reason for it. So I talked in a previous episode, I actually did a live outside the Space Force. I believe it was like 2 weeks ago now, on my way up to speak at the United We Stand Fest. And the main headquarters for the Space Force is in Lompoc, California. So I actually went up there and did a live from there. I believe it was a couple weeks ago. So make sure you check that out. But, I was discussing on that show that I feel also the reason for the Space Force coming up is it probably has a lot to do with the satellites that are being sent up around the world by different countries. They talk about other countries being a threat, now that spacefaring technology is really stepping up. But, I think a lot of it has to do with satellites. And obviously, lately, with the 180 days to a full disclosure bill, a lot has been coming out with that in regards to UFOs. And they've been saying, like, oh, it's not actually, flying saucers or spaceships, but it's actually just possibly like other countries that have their own technologies that haven't really been released yet. So, there's a lot coming out right now. So I just kind of want to cover some of these articles here today with you guys. And, whatever comes up, I will talk about it. But, what's really fascinating, I forgot I was getting to this earlier, but what's really fascinating is when commercial space travel really becomes a normal thing, imagine how quickly or how easily that will bring together the global human community. Like, even like 100, 200 years ago, most people didn't know what people were like in other parts of the planet. Now, like just over the past 100 or 200 years, since we've got internet and easier travel, things are changing a lot. And, it's really becoming a more one human community, one human family, which I talk about that a lot in my presentation. In regards to, a lot of people talk about there being this like separation between globalism and nationalism. And I really feel that, both are important because we should be looking at all the humans. We should be looking at things from our communities, the perspective of, helping people in our communities, but also coming together as the entire human race. And I feel that once commercial space travel starts ramping up and it's easier for us to get to other sides of the planet much faster than we are now, things are going to be looking a lot different. It's going to be a major consciousness shift. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. Like, what is that going to look like when you can, if you live, like I live in LA, if I was able to get to New York in 7 minutes, I mean, that's like, just getting in my car and going to Santa Monica. That's like less time than that, So that's crazy. And I think a lot of people aren't really taking the time to wrap their minds around this. I mean, that changes things a lot. You could actually, do business on the East Coast and the West Coast in one day. You could go back and forth a few times in one day if you had the money for that. You could go to Europe and get some business done, like go to work in Europe for the day. Probably take maybe like 2 hours and then come home and, finish up your day and go to bed. Like, that's crazy. And that's really going to change things. It's going to change people's perspectives on reality and the world. So it's really fascinating. And I think a lot of people aren't really thinking about this. And obviously, a lot of people have said, I hear a lot of people saying, like, why are all these billionaires so focused on spacefaring technology and they're spending billions of dollars on it when there's like billions of hungry people on the planet? And I agree with you. That's a problem. That is 100% a problem. And, I actually lay out all my solutions for humanity and how we can get over this issue in my Solutions for Humanity presentation, which I gave at the United We Stand Fest. So please go check that out. And if you haven't heard my presentation before, or if you have already heard it before, I actually give it a little differently every time. I always add new things. Sometimes I take things away. This time I went from the perspective of being a speaker in the UFO community as a disclosure activist, or what I like to call an exopolitician. Because it was a political kind of conference. So they had people representing different sides of politics. They even had, someone representing Native Americans and, people representing the local community. And, so it was really interesting. And I just kind of came in as the disclosure activist representing the UFO community. So that was really interesting. The presentation did get broadcasted to I believe almost 1 million people by this point. So it's really awesome. So make sure you go check that out. I love Ocean Odell's comment here. We are a global community and so wonderful. So many people are working on raising their frequency. Definitely. I agree with you. And it's like, man, this idea, this concept of being a global community is really going to, our perceptions are really going to be cracked open in the coming years. I really feel that. And I feel like a lot of people aren't really seeing this right now. But once it starts happening, once spacefaring technology becomes very common and less expensive and, easier to use, things are going to be a lot different. It's going to be very interesting. And hopefully it's not just going to be something that only the elites will be allowed to have. Obviously, it probably will be that way for a while. But, hopefully it will change soon. And I'm actually going to get into different types of technologies that may change that in today's show. So, let's see. What are we going to get into first here? Okay, I want to get into the Virgin Galactic highlights. Let me see here. I'll start with New York Times. Highlights from Richard Branson's Virgin Galactic spaceflight. The Virgin Galactic spaceplane Unity landed safely in New Mexico on Sunday morning after a trip meant to make human spaceflight seem unexceptional. Branson and the crew received astronaut wings after their successful trip to space. Richard Branson finally got his trip to space on Sunday. It has been a very long wait for Mr. Branson, the irreverent 70-year-old British billionaire who leads a galaxy of Virgin companies. In 2004, he founded Virgin Galactic to provide adventurous tourists with rides on rocket-powered planes to the edge of space and back. At the time, he thought commercial service would begin in 2 to 3 years. Instead, close to 17 years have passed. Virgin Galactic says it still has 3 more test flights to conduct, including one on Sunday, before it can be ready for paying passengers. Cars drove Mr. Branson and his crewmates to the plane on Sunday, and the flights took off on Sunday morning around 10:40 a.m. Eastern Time from Spaceport America in New Mexico, about 180 miles south of Albuquerque. The spaceplane separated from the carrier ship around 11:25 a.m. and ignited its engine for about 60 seconds, carrying Mr. Branson and the crew into space. Video footage from the live stream showed him and the crew experiencing weightlessness. Minutes later, the plane began its return to Earth in a glide and soon landed safely on the spaceport's runway. Mr. Branson, speaking into a camera in the plane's cabin during the glide, called it an experience of a lifetime. More than an hour later, a giddy Mr. Branson took a stage with his fellow crewmates. The whole thing was magical, he said. The Canadian astronaut, whose performance of David Bowie's Space Odyssey from the space station went viral some years ago, then pinned wings on the crewmates' flight suits that officially designate them as astronauts. What is the Virgin Galactic spaceplane and what did it do? The rocket plane, a type called Spaceship Two, is about the size of an executive jet. Wow, that's really cool. I didn't realize it was around that size. That's interesting. In addition to 2 pilots, there can be up to 4 people in the cabin. The particular Spaceship Two that flew on Sunday is named VSS Unity. To take off the ground, Unity was carried by a larger plane to an altitude of about 50,000 feet. There, Unity was released and the rocket plane's motor ignited. The acceleration made people on board feel a force up to 3.5 times their normal weight on the way to an altitude of more than 50 miles. At the top of the arc, those on board were able to see the blackness of space as well as the curve of the Earth. Did you hear that, people? The curve of the Earth. The Earth is not flat. I'm sorry, I might make some of you out there mad, but apparently it's not flat, so. Anyways, going on. The curve of the Earth from the plane's windows. They also got out of their seats and experienced about 4 minutes of apparent weightlessness. 50 miles up, Earth's downward gravitational pull is essentially just as strong as it is on the ground. Rather, the passengers were falling at the same pace as the plane around them. The 2 tail booms at the back of the plane then rotated up to a feathered configuration that created more drag and stability, allowing the plane to re-enter the Earth's atmosphere more gently. This configuration, Spaceship Two, like a badminton shuttlecock, which also falls with the pointy side oriented down than a plane. Still, the forces felt by the passengers on the way down were greater than on the way up, receiving 6 times the force of gravity. Once the plane was back in the atmosphere, the tail booms rotated back down, and the plane glided to a landing. So that's interesting because, it's basically the size of, like I said, a commercial jet, and it needs like basically another jet to like help it take off. So it's kind of interesting. I really feel that this is just the beginning of this technology. Like I was saying earlier, the more the more they work on this, the more it's going to be streamlined and easier and less expensive, and it will need less energy. Like any other kind of technology out there, the way it has evolved over the years. So, what will it cost to fly Virgin Galactic to space? Not long after Richard Branson re entered Earth's atmosphere on Sunday, he and other employees of his Virgin Galactic venture boasted that the company would greatly expand opportunities for the general public to travel to space. For the moment, those otherworldly views and feelings of weightlessness will still be held in rarefied air. A seat on one of the company's spaceships originally cost $200,000. Wow, that's way less than I thought, actually. The company later raised the price to $250,000 and then stopped sales after a crash during a test flight in 2014. When the company resumes sales later this year, the price will probably rise again, said Michael Colglazer. So, I'm wondering if when they're talking about this, if this is just for people going up to outer space, or if this is them releasing the technology to be able to fly from, like I was talking about earlier, from like LA to New York in 7 minutes. So, we'll see what will happen with that. I feel that at first they're probably just going to be sending people up to space for fun, but I believe that pretty soon here. I think what they need to do is actually start creating launching and landing pads in like major cities around the world before they can actually start using this as commercial space travel to get from one side of the country or one side of the planet to the other very quickly. So we'll see how that happens. Um, so Virgin Galactic's chief executive quote, "We're here to make space more accessible to all," Mr. Branson said on Sunday as he was presented with his astronaut wings after his milestone flight. Man, I want some astronaut wings. That's awesome. For a vast majority of Americans, the cost of such a trip is out of reach. In the future, Virgin Galactic and other spaceflight companies hope broadening opportunities to fly into space will bring down the cost of a ticket. But for now, primarily people from spare cash equivalent to the cost of some houses will be able to afford a few moments at the edge of space. Nevertheless, the company estimated on Sunday that more than 600 people from some 60 countries had signed up for its flights. The first paying Spaceship Two passengers may begin flying in the next year, after the company completes 2 more test flights. During Virgin Galactic's live stream on Sunday, some space tourists in waiting spoke about how they were looking forward to taking the flights. They have been invited to watch Mr. Branson's flight from Spaceport America in New Mexico. There was no discussion of the steep costs associated with space travel, which is not limited to Virgin Galactic. An unnamed passenger paid $28 million to join the Amazon founder Jeff Bezos later this month when his rocket company, Blue Origin, is to launch its new Shepard rocket and capsule. The company has yet to announce the standard fare for a trip on its spacecraft when Mr. Bezos isn't in the next scene. While the price of a brief suborbital trip with Virgin Galactic or Blue Origin is expensive, trips even higher to orbit and beyond are downright, well, astronomical. 3 people paid $55 million each to Axiom Space in Houston to fly in SpaceX's Crew Dragon to the International Space Station as soon as early next year. Man, a trip to the space station. Oh, okay. I'm gonna get into this after I read this, but I have to remember to talk to. You know what? Actually, I'm just gonna talk about the space station for a second here. Let me see how much we have left here. Okay. Okay, so I just want to take a second to talk about this, and then I'll continue with that because that's actually a very interesting article. So, and you guys know how much I hate mainstream media. But, I think it would be one thing that we need to keep in mind here when it comes to space travel being something that's going to become very commercial and, something that people are going to be doing more often in the very near future here. I mean, it's looking like all these companies plan on, having regular commercial space travel by the end of the year. All three of these companies. I feel like space stations are going to be like the newest, most amazing resorts. Like, obviously, we have like the International Space Station right now, but think about it. There's going to probably be space stations all over up in our atmosphere, like different kinds. Like, they'll probably be like, like, for all we know, like, there'll be like a Hilton space station, Ritz-Carlton space station. People can just fly there, obviously it'll be super rich people at first, but people will just fly out there and hang out and come back. But I think after a while, this is something that's going to happen within, our generation. But I think after a while, once this is something that, is becoming more common, when people are even like, ordinary civilians that aren't mega rich start flying a lot, and the price will probably go down by quite a bit after a while. I believe, they might start having space colonies. There might be, literal colonies out in outer space that are kind of like, space stations, but they're built just for people to live. Wouldn't that be amazing? And, maybe they're trying to do this because of the way things are going on our planet. Who knows? And honestly, I'd be surprised if there aren't some already. It's interesting. I just saw the movie Black Widow the other night, and in the movie, they actually have this like space station that's like up above the planet or up above the atmosphere over Russia, I believe, and they're taking these young women and turning them into spies and keeping them up on the station and basically, I mean, I'm sure a lot of you have seen this already, but I highly recommend watching it. Actually, it's the new Black Widow movie, so I definitely recommend watching that. But so basically, they're taking all these women, bringing them up to this space station, and turning them into assassins that they have these chips in them where they can control them to do whatever they want. So they're like basically these young girls are being taken, at like around 6 years old and brought there and trained to become these assassins. So it's really interesting. So I definitely recommend watching that. But like seeing like things like that, it's like through fiction they try to release truth. That's what Hollywood does. Or it's more like they're like teasing you, throwing it in your face, like this is what we're already doing. And who knows what like China and Russia are doing. I could see Russia being a country that would be working on things like this and keeping it quiet. America is very like Americans like to really brag about what they're doing. I feel that Russia would definitely be a country where they would probably or continent where they'd probably be working on this and keeping it quiet. And they may already have some of these things. I mean, for all we know, there's probably black budget corporations that already have these technologies and probably already have their own space stations. I mean, it's funny. It's like, obviously Jeff Bezos, he'd been working on Blue Origin for a long time, but a lot of people don't know about that. He kept it quiet, And there's these different three-letter agencies and programs that are probably working on these things and have been for a long time. A lot of secret space program whistleblowers obviously have been coming forward over the past so many years, few decades, looks like now, and supposedly saying that we already have a spacefaring civilization, but the general public isn't allowed to know about it. So who knows? Who knows if these people are legitimate who are coming forward? I personally have interviewed many of them, and apparently, there's like a base in Antarctica where all this is being run out of. So who knows? But it's interesting to think about. So I'm going to continue with that article. Let me see here. Just way back up here. Okay, this is actually another article about this. I think I might have X'd out the other one. There's definitely a lot of information. That was a pretty good one. So, billionaire Branson soars to space abroad Virgin Galactic flight. Let me see here. This is probably, for the most part, what I just read. So I'm just going to skim through this. Okay, I'm going to start here. Space Race. Branson's participation in Sunday's flight, announced just over a week ago, typified his persona as the daredevil executive whose various Virgin brands, from airlines to music companies, have long been associated with his ocean-crossing exploits in sailboats and hot air balloons. His ride-along also upstaged rival astrotourism venture Blue Origin and its founder Bezos in what has been popularized as the Billionaire Space Race. Bezos has been planning to fly aboard his suborbital rocket ship, the New Shepard, later this month. Branson has insisted he and Bezos are friendly rivals and we're not racing to beat each other into space. We wish Jeff the absolute best and that he will get up and enjoy his flight, Branson said at a post-flight news conference. Blue Origin, however, has disparaged Virgin Galactic as falling short of a true spaceflight experience, saying that, unlike Unity, Bezos' New Shepard tops the 62-mile high mark called the Kármán line, set by an international aeronautics body as defining the boundary between Earth's atmosphere and space. New Shepard was designed to fly above the Kármán line, so none of our astronauts have an asterisk next to their name, Blue Origin said in a series of Twitter posts on Friday. However, U.S. Space Agency, NASA, and the U.S. Air Force both define an astronaut as anyone who has flown higher than 50 miles. A third player in the space tourism sector, Musk's SpaceX, plans to send its first all-civilian crew, without Musk, in orbit in September, after having already launched numerous cargo payloads and astronauts to the International Space Station for NASA. A Virgin Galactic spokesperson told the Wall Street Journal that Musk had bought a ticket for his own space ride. The newspaper said that it is not clear how far up the waiting list Musk is for a seat. Representatives from Musk could not be immediately reached. Virgin Galactic and Tesla did not immediately respond to requests for comment. The spaceplane's two pilots were Dave Mackay and Michael Masucci. The three other mission specialists were Beth Moses, the company's chief astronaut instructor, Virgin Galactic's lead operations engineer, Colin Bennett, and Sarisha Bandla, a research operations and government affairs vice president. All recounted afterward being mesmerized by the view from Unity's windows. Mackay described the immense blackness of space against the brightness of Earth's atmosphere, separated by the beautiful blue atmosphere, which is very complex and very thin. Cameras don't do it justice, he told reporters. You have to see it with your own eyes. Interesting. Okay. So what else we have here? Sorry, I'm just going to catch up with these comments here. I don't know why my comments aren't being caught up. Third Phase of Moon. Good to have you on here. I am going to come out soon. So Third Phase of Moon, Blake and Brent, my fellow homies at Third Phase of Moon, are actually in Santa Monica today. So I'm planning on meeting them after the show. I just have a little bit more to get through here, guys, and I'll meet up with you after. Okay, what else do we have here? Okay, Bezos' Blue Origin gets okay to send him and 3 others to space. The Amazon founder will climb atop his New Shepard rocket next Tuesday in West Texas, joined by his brother, an 82-year-old female aviation pioneer, and a $28 million auction winner. Jeff Bezos' rocket company has gotten government improvement to launch people into space, himself included. The Amazon founder will climb atop his New Shepard rocket next Tuesday in West Texas, joined by his brother, an 82-year-old female aviation pioneer, and a $28 million auction winner. It will be the first launch with passengers for Blue Origin, which, like Richard Branson's Virgin Galactic, plans to start flying paying customers in the months ahead. The Federal Aviation Administration issued its okay on Monday. The license is good through August. On Sunday, Virgin Galactic's billionaire founder Richard Branson rode his own rocket to space, accompanied by 5 company employees. A specially designed aircraft carried the winged ship aloft over New Mexico. The spaceplane dropped away, fired its rocket motor, and soared to 53.5 miles before gliding into a runway touchdown. Blue Origin's flight, featuring an automated capsule launched atop a reusable booster, should reach a maximum altitude of roughly 66 miles before parachuting into the desert. Joining Blue Origin and Virgin Galactic in the chase for space tourists is Elon Musk's SpaceX, but SpaceX plans to send its customers into orbit not on brief up and down hops. Musk has yet to commit to a launch himself. Bezos, 57, stepped down last week as Amazon CEO and founded Blue Origin in 2000. So interesting. It looks like Elon Musk here plans on doing quite a bit more with than just, going straight up into space and coming back down. So this is what I'm saying. I feel that, what's really awesome with this commercial space travel becoming more readily used, it looks like we will be able to start jumping around the planet much more quickly pretty soon here. So I think that's probably what Elon Musk is working on is, and I hope that's what he's working on, is basically getting these launching and landing pads ready in different major cities around the world. Once we're able to do that, things are really going to change for humanity. So I'm excited to see that. Matthew here says, Elon's Starship looks like a hot rod corn silo. It's pretty funny. Renee Cruz says, Tic Tac. Yeah, we have the Tic Tac crafts. Okay. What else do we have here? Okay, so there's this new technology. I'm going to share what Elon Musk actually just came out about this 5 hours ago. But first I'm going to read an article about this new technology. So apparently there's this plasma thruster concept that could make space missions 10 times faster. So this is by Interesting Engineering. New plasma thruster concept could make space missions 10 times faster. Space travel might take less time than ever with the new plasma thruster design developed at the U.S. Department of Energy. Fatima Abrahimi, a physicist from the Princeton Plasma Physics Laboratory at the U.S. Department of Energy's DOE, has designed a plasma thruster that is likely to make space travel way faster than any other existing technology. Fast and efficient space travel has the potential to push mankind towards a better future. There might be planets, resources, and even life forms located far away that can bring a drastic change in our knowledge and understanding and lifestyle. There are strong chances that, if it turns out to be successful, the new plasma thruster design from Abrahimi could change the dynamics of space travel. The principle behind Abrahami's plasma thruster design. The origin of Abrahami's plasma thruster concept began in some previous experiments related to a donut-shaped fusion devices known as tokamaks, which were conducted by researchers at the Princeton Plasma Physics Laboratory. In 1999, PPL, in collaboration with Columbia University Oak Ridge National Laboratory and the University of Wisconsin, created the National Spherical Torus Experiment, a magnetic fusion device based on the tokamak concept. The device has since been upgraded to become the NSTXU upgrade project. So here's what it looks like here. It's really interesting because it looks like it's basically like a toroidal field. That's really awesome. Oh, and so obviously there's magnetics going through this. Really interesting. So what I've heard from supposedly a lot of whistleblowers have said that that reverse engineered ET technology that is supposedly intergravity technology, which our government or possibly black budget corporations already supposedly have, has a lot to do with magnetics and magnets rotating in opposite directions. Polarized magnets rotating in opposite directions. So this actually looks quite a bit like the designs I've seen for that. So it's very interesting. The purpose of NSTX is to develop a path towards using fusion energy as an abundant, safe, affordable, and environmentally sound means of generating electricity. The NSTX device uses a novel spherical torus-shaped structure to create a magnetic field which is used to contain hot ionized gas called plasma, needed to cause a fusion reaction. Future fusion power plants will use plasmas consisting of a mixture of deuterium and tritium. You know, what's interesting, before I go on here, deuterium, that is something that can be mined from asteroids. And I'm going to get into that a little. I mean, obviously, I've talked about this quite a bit on my show. I had Brooks Agnew come on and talk about this. And I talked about it in my Solutions for Humanity presentation up in Cambria, California last weekend at the United Stand Fest. But deuterium is very common on asteroids and can be found on asteroids. So, you know, could be interesting. We'll see what happens with that. So deuterium and tritium, which would undergo fusion reactions to produce helium, along with a large release of energy. To achieve this, it is necessary to maintain a sufficient temperature and pressure in the plasma while a shaped magnetic field provides insulation. Theoretically, a spherical torus shape will allow the plasma pressure needed to produce self-sustaining fusion to be maintained with lower magnetic field strength. Since the cost of a fusion power plant will increase with strength of its magnetic field, a lower magnetic field strength for the plasma confinement could lead to economical fusion power plants. In an interview, Abrahami revealed that she observed the similarities between a car's exhaust and the high-velocity exhaust particles produced by the PPPL's National Spherical Torus Experiment, and realized that when operational, the tokamak device could make plasma bubbles, plasmoids, which travel at astonishing speeds of around 44,730 miles an hour. This finding led Abrahami to come up with a new plasma thruster design which uses magnetic field energy to create high thrust. She later published this concept in detail in the Journal of Plasma Physics. Differences between existing space travel technology and Abrahami's design. There are several differences between Abrahami's concept and other proposals. The first is that the design allows the velocity to be increased or decreased by changing the strength of the magnetic fields. Current plasma thrusters that can use electric fields can only produce a low specific impulses or speeds. The new thruster would use the ejection of both plasma particles and plasmoids to produce movement. Abrahami's concept is unique in its incorporation of plasmoids, which would add power to the propulsion. In addition, while current thruster concepts rely on electric fields and heavy gases made of atoms like xenon, the magnetic fields in Abrahami's concept would allow the plasma inside the thruster to consist of almost any type of gas. This would create more flexibility and allow more variation in the amount of thrust. At present, space travel, even to the nearest planet Mars, will take around 7 months. Current rocket engines generate a low specific impulse, which results in low exhaust velocity, and so modern day spaceships take time to speed up. Abrahami's plasmoid thruster would be more efficient than the current concepts, partly due to its use of electromagnets to adjust the thrust. The design would allow astronauts to increase or decrease the velocity of their rocket as needed. Computer simulations of Abrahami's plasma thruster design show that it can deliver exhaust velocity 10 times higher than the thrusters used at present. For the same reason, this magnetic plasma thruster is now also being seen as an efficient means to send humans to Mars. Expected faster impacts on space travel technology. Faster space travel would not be only enable us to visit more distant stars and galaxies, but it also will likely provide us with more scientific knowledge, resources, and perhaps even economic development. There are many ways in which it can affect mankind. And one of these they aren't mentioning is asteroid mining. An efficient plasma thruster technology like the one proposed by the DOE physicists can significantly reduce the cost of space missions because with faster rocket engines, space missions would be shorter. The cost of the fuel, logistics, etc. would reduce drastically with decreased traveling time. Therefore, space and interplanetary transportation might become more feasible than ever before. Hey, what did I say earlier at the beginning of this show? This technology, it is new and it may cost a lot, it may take up a lot of space right now, but you know, like computers used to be and cell phones and every other kind of technology, over time it's going to gradually become more efficient. So, I really feel even within the next few years here, we're going to see a lot of changes in these technologies coming out. A decrease in travel time decreases the number of time astronauts would be exposed to dangerous cosmic radiation that permeates any spacecraft. Thus, a plasma thruster that offers great speed can reduce the various health risks involved with human spaceflight programs, and eventually, it would also encourage space agencies to conduct some more space missions with human passengers on board. Faster space exploration could possibly give a boost to mankind's search for alien life. More space programs could be launched in a short span of time to explore planets within and perhaps even outside of our galaxy. The sole dependence on Earth for resources may come to an end with the advent of faster space travel technology. Due to feasible and quick interplanetary travel, scientists would be able to study and experiment on all kinds of matter available to them from different parts of the universe. Space travel might also bring advancements in technology and research. A faster and more feasible space travel technology may give rise to new sectors and soon turn hypothetical concepts such as space mining into a reality. Oh, there we go. They talk about it there. While many new developments are yet to happen in space travel technology, Dr. Ebrahimi is optimistic about her reconnector plasmoid thruster design, and she hopes to have the first prototype ready soon. Very awesome. Really cool. Whew. Okay, so there were some other things I wanted to get into on today's show, but I am a little jet lagged right now, and I have some other plans tonight. So, I think something that I was going to talk about on tonight's show, I'm just going to make it into a show for Thursday. So, I should be back with my regular live show on Thursday. if I'm not booked to be on a show, which I might be. We'll talk about that later. I may be booked for a pretty decent role on this major TV show, so we'll see how that goes. I just did some testing for that today. So it was good to see everyone here again on tonight's show, and yeah, I think I just kind of realized going through this that another thing I wanted to talk about on tonight's show that isn't quite related to the topics I've gone over tonight, could be its own topic, its own show, and I could add a lot more to it. So I think I'm just going to do that on Thursday, if I'm not booked on another show. If I do become booked on another show, then I'll just do that show over the weekend. I always try to keep the Tuesday shows very regular. So I'll most likely, always have my show on Tuesdays, but Thursdays I occasionally miss. So, again, like I said, because I'm going to be doing a lot more with acting in the coming months, my shows may be a little more all over the place. So if you want to keep following up with me and you want to stay on when I'm going to be coming on, please just hit the notification bell and subscribe. That way you're notified when I'm about to go live, because they might just kind of randomly go live some days, that aren't the days that I am normally going live. So please just, stay tuned for that and watch out for that. And hopefully I can come up with a lot more here. So, and I will be writing scripts for some amazing new projects, so I'm really stoked about that. This major project I'm going to be working on here. Also, if you would like to have a shirt with the Apolla's Odyssey logo on it, please check that out on shamanspears.com. I have my I Believe in Human t-shirts. I Believe in Humans. It has these really cool flying saucers on it, and it promotes full disclosure. So, if you'd like to check that out, there's only 30. It even says on here, crafted one of 30, and it's made with really amazing material. It's not like, crappy t-shirt material. It's actually like really great material. So make sure you check those out. They're actually, like I said, they're very well made, and it has my show logo on the back. And, it's one of 30, so these are going to be pretty original. The next shirts I'm going to make are going to be completely different. So if you would like to be the ones lucky enough to be in the first set of shirts, have a shirt from the first set of shirts from Apollo's Odyssey, please go to shamanspears.com and check that out. And also, like I said at the beginning of the show, in case you missed it, I have tons of amazing shaman spears available on shamanspears.com. Some new pyramids available, and these freaking awesome organite daggers I made that are not real daggers. They're shaped like daggers, but they're not sharp, and you can't cut anyone with them. So please go check that out. And that is at www.shamanspears.com. And everyone who buys a spear gets a awesome little ancient scroll which talks about what it means to have one. And all spears are autographed by me, if you care about that. So, I hope to see you all soon. Oh, someone here said great quality. Thank you, I appreciate that. So I hope to see you all soon on Apollo's Odyssey, and I will not be in my studio this week, but next week I will be. So until next time on Apollo's Odyssey, over and out.